What's up, y'all? Haterade here, and today we tank everything. I'm talking champions, Hive Guardians, Grandmaster Nightfall bosses. You name it, we can tank it. It should come as no surprise that one of the tankiest builds right now in Destiny 2 revolves around the Behemoth subclass for the Titan. Using the 40% damage reduction from having a 100 resilience, or tier 10 resilience as it's often referred to, and pairing it with the Behemoth's aspects and fragments make it effectively unkillable if used correctly in most situations. On top of that, the exotic armor and weapons tied to this build ramp it up even further. Let's start off by getting into the subclass setup. For aspects, you're going to want to use Tectonic Harvest and Howl of the Storm. With Tectonic Harvest, shattering a stasis crystal creates a stasis shard. This shard grants melee energy when picked up by you or your allies. Now, this is important to remember because it's going to come into play with the build later on. With Howl of the Storm, while sliding, activate your charged melee ability to launch a wave of stasis energy forward that freezes targets and creates stasis crystals. For fragments, you're going to want to start off with Whisper of Conduction, which allows for nearby stasis shards to track to your position. Whisper of Fissures increases the damage and size with a burst of stasis when you destroy any stasis crystals or frozen targets. With Whisper of Shards, shattering stasis crystals temporarily boosts your grenade recharge rate, and shattering additional crystals increases the duration of this benefit. Lastly, and arguably the most important fragment for any would-be tank, Whisper of Chains. This fragment states that while you're near frozen targets or a friendly stasis crystal, you take reduced damage from targets. How much reduced damage, you might ask? A whopping 40%, which stacks with the already 40% damage reduction you get for having tier 10 resilience. Now, it seems only fitting to outfit our tank of a Titan with some up-close and personal weapons to add to its arsenal. Something with a blade sounds good to me. With that, we'll look at our dear old friend, the Lament. This barrier champion busting chainsaw sword has the intrinsic perk Banshee's Wail, which essentially allows you to gain stacks of additional damage when blocking, which revs the sword up, which also gives it the ability to pierce barrier champion shields. On top of that, it has the perk Revved Consumption, which allows you to heal when damaging combatants. But let's take it one step further. Pairing the Lament with the exotic gauntlets for the Titan, Stronghold, you have a pair of exotics that synergize incredibly well together. With their exotic perk Clenched Fist, you'll maximize your guard stat for any swords, in this case Lament, as well as healing you for any damage you take immediately after blocking. So essentially, you're healing when you're dealing damage, and you're healing when blocking. On top of that, you gain an additional 90% damage reduction when blocking with your Lament. You can see now how this exotic combo synergizes so well together. How about the mods that tie it all together? Well, remember those stasis shards you're creating by continuously shattering stasis crystals? Thanks to elemental shards, those stasis shards will count as stasis elemental wells, giving you ability energy back and, more importantly, charging you with light thanks to elemental charge. Once charged with light, you'll be dealing more damage with Lament thanks to the mod Loosened Blade. When active, the Keen buff from Loosened Blade will consume 1 stack of charge with light and give your Lament a 35% damage buff for 10 seconds. As for the remaining 2 mod slots, I'm personally a fan of running Font of Wisdom to boost my super recharge rate continuously as those stasis shards are picked up, and Font of Might. In the event that you're not running any stasis weapons, I would opt to run the Arc mod Striking Light to gain an additional 25% damage reduction when sprinting. Now, I know what you're already thinking, and you're right, Lament's a solar weapon. However, with Font of Might up almost 100% of the time, you can lean heavy into the abundance of stasis weapons at your disposal. Want to freeze enemies and deal a ton of damage? Slap on a Deliverance or Riptide Fusion Rifle with Chill Clip. Want to use the current highest DPS shotgun in the game? Slap on the new Stasis Slug, No Reprieve, and lay waste to anything in your path. Not to mention there are plenty of Stasis primary weapons to fit your playstyle. Alright, here comes the numbers part of the video, so strap in. The final piece of the pie, the cherry on top if you will, is the Glaive. Despite not having any champion utility in Season 18, Glaives are still game-breakingly busted good at blocking damage. I mean, you get an additional 97.5% damage resist when blocking with a Glaive in PvE. So let's do some quick rough Titan math. Speaking solely from a damage reduction standpoint, we get 40% for tier 10 resilience, 40% when we're near a stasis crystal and Whisper of Chains is procced, 97.5% when blocking with a Glaive, and up to 36% when stacking 2 elemental resists and 1 effect resist, made possible through Artifice Armor. That brings our total damage reduction up to around a whopping 213% possible reduction in damage. You can tank anything short of a one-shot ability with a Singe active. I'm looking at you, Sadia, and your Eviscerating Hex. No longer do you need to call that hunter over to go invis to pick up a revive. You can move freely in a hailstorm of damage and do whatever you like. Now, obviously, Glaive damage isn't all that great, so you're sacrificing a weapon slot for a more utility option, but therein lies the mindset of a true tank. Not to mention, you can still run another special weapon in your kinetic slot, although you'll have to be careful about your ammo so you don't run out. Even then, you can still use your Glaive to hit anything that gets close enough to you with the old stabby stab. The long and short of this setup is that you sacrifice your mid to long range effectiveness to become a literal walking tank. While having anywhere from 150 to 200+% damage reduction is amazing, there are obvious drawbacks potentially in your overall DPS and ability to support your fire team depending on the activity you're running. However, don't be afraid to take this bad boy into Grandmaster Nightfalls, Master Lost Sectors, dungeons, hell, even raids. The world is truly your oyster, and there are so many powerful builds in Destiny 2, much like this one, that favor a different playstyle. That's it for me. I'm done. I'm out, and I'll see you all in the next one.